We've got a quorum and Glenn will join us at some point in time. So it's 5:31 and we call the meeting to order for the Human Rights Commission, Monday, March 8, 2021. Jay, we've got roll call.
Commissioner Andrade.
Present.
Commissioner Ramaran.
Present.
Commissioner Shepard.
Present.
Vice Chair Chappelle, as indicated, she'll be absent. Chair DeHart
Present.
and Commissioner Flood, I believe, is on his way. So, but currently not present. Commissioner Cash, Student Representative Cash.
I saw her lips move, but I didn't hear her.
Sorry, President.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And Commissioner Shepard, will you please read the mission statement for us tonight?
The mission of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission is to promote and protect the diversity of our community and to improve human relations through education and community awareness.
Beautiful. And Jay, still no public comment?
I have not been informed. We have David Vignolo on the line, and just want to check and make sure, see if David has any comments.
Hey, David, are you tuned in for public comment tonight, or are you observing tonight?
I'm observing.
Okay, beautiful. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, Jay, so no other chat, so no public comment for tonight. First item on the agenda, item 6, approval of minutes for December 14, 2020 and January 11, 2021. Are there any items that people need to note on them? If not, we'll entertain a motion to pass the minutes as presented for December 14 and January 11.
So moved.
And seconded by
Second.
Mr. Ramaran, Commissioner Ramaran. Thank you. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented? Aye or thumbs up. Beautiful. Thank you. Jay, did you get Donna? Commissioner Shepard was the one who put the first on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now we have item 7. Just a special opportunity for the chair to make comments specifically about the hate crimes that seem to be on the rise across the country against Asian Americans. So there have been an alarming increase in violent crimes against those Asian American and Pacific Islanders across the country. These expressions of hate and prejudice are abhorrent and have no place in our society. In the United States, we have experienced surges in racism and violence against Asian Americans since the first day of migration in the 1800s from China, Japan, Korea, India, and the Philippines. Over the last year, as the COVID-19 pandemic became the new normal around the world, there have been a growing unease at the rise in the number of hate crimes against Asian Americans. We hear about stories of verbal abuse and read about violent incidents in news reports. The video footage of 88-year-old Vaicha Ratan Apek being brutally attacked while on his morning walk in San Francisco crystallized our fear, sorrow, anger, and memory. He was violently shoved to the ground on January 28, 2021, and died from a brain hemorrhage. 3 San Francisco Bay organizations created StopAAPIHate.org. That website serves as an aggregator of anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents as a community resource. The coalition has recorded more than 2,800 incidents of racism and discrimination targeting Asian Americans between March and December of 2020. In 2020, Palm Springs experienced 10 hate crimes and 8 hate incidences. One of the hate incidences was Asian related. On May 16, 2020, the victim was told he should return to Chinatown. The Human Rights Commission stands in solidarity with the entire Asian American, and Pacific Islander community in condemning those who commit anti-Asian violence. We call on the community to be vigilant, watch out for your neighbors, and together we can speak out against racism and hate-driven violence. We must come together and summon a new energy in the fight against anti-Asia racism. So that takes care of our comment tonight on the increase in violence against the API community. And another note of significance today is actually International Women's Day. And later on in the agenda, we're going to be addressing or discussing a resolution to move forward to acknowledge Women's Day in Palm Springs. So now we are up on items 8, items for discussion and action. And the first items coming out of executive committee are an acknowledgement of one of our days of significance, Zero Discrimination Day, which was March 1st of this year. It's a day that highlights the urgent need to take action to end the inequalities surrounding income, sex, age, health status, occupation, disability, sexual orientation, drug use, gender identity, race, class, ethnicity, and religion that continue to persist around the world. Inequality is growing for more than 70% of the global population. This is exacerbated by the risk of division and hampering economic and social development. And COVID-19 is hitting the most vulnerable people the hardest. Even as the new vaccines against COVID are becoming widely available, there is great inequity in accessing them. Many have equated this to vaccine apartheid. We join and ask everybody to take a moment and acknowledge the Zero Discrimination Day for 2020. And we move on to the next item, which is 8AB, Section 14, apology. And here we've got Councilmember Coors, who is with us, who's going to share a little bit of background about this item number. But for the commission, we started a conversation that was dealing with this probably 4 years ago. And it's long in coming, and it's probably one of the ugliest periods in Palm Springs history. But we must take steps forward, and we've got to begin to right the painful wrongs of our past. And tonight's discussion and action, hopefully from the commission, will be one of those big steps that we need to take forward for our community to heal. So I will turn it over to Councilmember Coors, who will share some of the background with us.
Great, and first, thank you, Chair DeHart, and thank you to the commission for all your great work. Over the years that I've been on council, we've worked together on a number of ordinances, and really appreciate all the leadership this commission has shown. And just listening to the start of the meeting, just a reminder, while we've made progress, how much more we need to do. As the chair stated, this is a long time coming, more than 50 years, in my opinion, that we acknowledge and apologize for the city's actions on Section 14, something I asked many months ago to bring to the city council and was given a date at the end of March where we can bring it to the full council, and working with the chair on making sure we could bring it to the commission before it came to council. I worked on a draft with Chair DeHart, and we got input from Councilmember Garner on this draft, who made some really good suggestions that we incorporated into this. But I want to bring this as a draft, so please, I think everyone has seen it. If you'd like, I can read the findings into the record. And if people have suggestions, the main thing we're trying to do is cover the key points and keep it so it will fit on a page, because we'd like to see this posted in city buildings throughout the city. So we started, it was many pages, but we are going to incorporate by reference the Attorney General report, which really gives a lot more detail. But if there are things you think we missed, should add, please, when I'm done, take notes and share them, because we really want to get all of your input when we bring this back to council. So I'll read the findings, and it's currently titled City of Palm Springs Apology for its role in the destruction of Section 14. Whereas from 1930 to 1965, many working class Black, Indigenous, and people of color lived and built homes on a square mile of land owned by members of the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, known as Section 14 in downtown Palm Springs. This was a primary residential area for Black, Indigenous, and people of color in Palm Springs. This community was diverse, rich in tradition, and proud of its unique cultural identities. Whereas in 1959, when Indian land became available for long-term leases, commercial development of the land became possible. By 1964, the city of Palm Springs began executing the plan to demolish all existing property on Section 14. And whereas the city encouraged conservators for Indians owning the land to terminate the leases or rentals of the land. Many of the conservators were local judges and attorneys. Some city officials were conservatives themselves. The city, using public funds, cleared the land. Homes and personal belongings owned by the inhabitants were destroyed and burned by the city, often ignoring required notice provisions. Up to 1,000 residents were displaced and the community was destroyed. The California Attorney General found, and I'm quoting, evidence of unusual cooperation between developers, the Indian conservators, and the city of Palm Springs in the demolition of Section 14. And whereas the city of Palm Springs kept no official records of the persons displaced and the residences destroyed in Section 14, there is no record of any attempt at determining that each homeowner and resident had been properly served with eviction notices. And whereas accompanying the destruction of homes in Section 15, continuing disregard for relocation of these residents. Due to racial covenants in Palm Springs, many Black residents moved to Beaumont or Banning. Other Black residents moved north to buy land then outside city limits, where they built mid-century homes in a formerly defunct housing tract, resulting in de facto racial segregation. And whereas in 1968, the Attorney General found the city of Palm Springs not only disregarded the residents of Section 14 as property owners, taxpayers, and voters, Palm Springs ignored that the residents of Section 14 were human beings. Unquote. We recognize, acknowledge, and accept the 1968 Department of Justice Attorney General's report, Palm Springs Section 14 demolition. The report charges homes belonging to minority residents of Section 14, quote, destroyed by a city engineered Holocaust, unquote. And whereas, while the harm caused by the Section 14 removal cannot be erased, we lift up and acknowledge those connected to this land, and we acknowledge the impact the city's actions have had. And whereas today, individuals and families who are endured forced removals and clearances are still impacted by a legacy of racism, separation, and lack of resources. Before healing can begin for families and descendants of those removed from Section 14, the city must acknowledge the hurt in our history of urban renewal and impact inflicted on Palm Springs Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. And Chairman, maybe stop there just for the history, and then we maybe can move into the whereas clauses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but let's take a few seconds just to absorb what was just read and what's in front of us tonight. I think it is something of significance, and it's truly a meaningful step for so many people in our community who have lived through this trauma, and families that continue to live in the community that have lived with these memories. So the intention tonight is to move a resolution forward for the commission's endorsement to support this resolution and encourage city council adoption. So the resolution would read, now therefore be it resolved that we, the undersigned members of the Palm Springs City Council, recognize that Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other working class residents' homes and property were destroyed by the raising of Section 14, and regret the tremendous harm caused and mourn the lost sense of community caused by the demolition of this neighborhood. Be it further resolved, we do hereby apologize for the city government's role in the destruction of Section 14, and affirm that the lessons learned from the city's actions will forever be remembered. We further commit to advance racial and social equity, diversity, inclusion, and fairness, and to work to address and undo systematic racism and its continuing impacts. Be it further resolved, the Human Rights Commission and the City of Palm Springs Equity and Social Justice Committee, appointed by City Council, will bring specific actions to address systematic racism and recommendations on advancing social justice. So this is a motion out of committee. So the executive committee brings the motion to the table. We need a second so we can enter into discussion.
Seconded.
Commissioner Ramaran seconds. Now we can have discussion for those that have any questions or want to make comments. And with Councilmember Coors here, it's a perfect opportunity to get direct feedback.
I think an apology certainly is in order, but with the documentation and of what happened and the egregious nature of this incident, if there's any place that one might discuss reparations, I would think this would be it. I don't know what that would look like, but I know if I were one of the family members that were robbed of generational wealth and other things by this incident, an apology would fall fairly on deaf ears for me if I didn't have a strong sense that there was something else looking into being done as a result of this incident.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, if I could, on that point, since it was something that I considered as well, and speaking with Councilmember Garner, we thought that should go to the Social Equity Committee, as they're really focused on what steps council should take. And the apology really needs to come from the council on behalf of the city. But I agree with you that that should definitely be considered as this issue moves forward to the Social Equity Committee and the Human Rights Commission, who has members on that committee. So thank you for that. Yeah, apology is not.
Can it be acknowledged, Jeff, that somehow or another, I know there's some acknowledgement that we're working toward doing other things, but in a little more strong nature in the document, or is that not the appropriate place to put it?
If it's okay, let me take that as an idea to Councilmember Garner, who I'm working with on this. We want to bring this to you first as a draft, and then really get the specifics in the work you're doing with the Social Equity Committee on the specific actions, and not just pick a few out here, because there are many, I think, that are going to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
But we can mention that to council as well, and that if that's a recommendation of the commission, that be looked into, we can bring that forward as well, I think.
And I live adjacent to Desert Highlands. I don't know if any of those residents were moved up to Gateway Desert Highlands area, but the blight in that area to me is it's just unacceptable for a city of our wealth and our background. So if there's anything that it could even be done by existing areas, I just think we're way, way, way overdue in that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a
Yep,
question.
Commissioner Andrade.
This is a little bit of a historical question from the information that we were provided, but there's a lot of discussion about the conservators and their roles. And I'm just curious about is there a record of how the conservators were appointed, or was it appointments by the Bureau perhaps, or did people choose their own conservators? Or I mean, you're shaking your head, Ron, so I'm assuming you have some knowledge on that.
So the judge in Indio appointed 6 conservators to handle all these land leases. And they were all people tied in with the city attorneys, lawyers, and some city officials.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the other question I had, and I can't find the reference in my paperwork here, but when the ruling came down from the district attorney, there was some recommendation that the city look into providing additional housing opportunities or something of that nature. And is there any record of whether that happened, or how did that happen?
You know, after 1968, when that letter came out, between 1968, I don't have that history. I'm not, Jeff, do you have any knowledge of action that the city may have taken, you know, from 68 to most recent times when there has been a focus on housing?
I mean, as far as housing, I mean, the one thing that was requested of residents was that the city annex the area that was outside Palm Springs so that we could provide city services. And the city, I don't have the year on that, but we can get it. So the city did take that action at the request of residents because they were in unincorporated Riverside County at the time, the neighborhood. And so they weren't even getting city services. So the city did do that. And in 2000, Mayor Kleindick did issue an acknowledgement of what happened in Section 14, but not the requested apology.
Okay. Where can we see that the mayor's response or apology or acknowledgement?
It's nowhere to be found.
It's with those other documents, I take it, right? They're
You know, it's been written about, but it's not, we don't have the
okay.
official.
Yeah, we even tracked down to the Smithsonian, the American Indian Museum, and they cite a letter that was written by the mayor at the time as an acknowledgement, but they were citing references here from the tribe. So we've been trying to get our hands on that. Historical Society doesn't have it. It doesn't come up in searches on the Desert Sun, but it's something that we're curious to see.
Does the tribe have it?
Say again?
Does the tribe have it?
No.
Have we asked them?
Yeah, we checked with them, and they don't have our document.
Yeah. One thing, just as an aside, that as soon as I read that, looked up the dates for the Uniform Relocation Act and a couple of other things that might have, had they been in place at the time, had a huge impact on this circumstance. And I am grateful that, you know, that things were done to prevent this in the future and that they do exist. But I wish it would have been, the Uniform Relocation Act was in 1987. So yeah, it was 20 years before or after this happened. And that's a long time when people's possessions and rights are being obstructed, that's for sure. So thank you for that.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
I appreciate this draft. I think it's very good, and one of the things I did realize is that there, you know, it's funny because we were always talking about documents and like, history. There is a sense that, you know, last month's Black History Month, the Palm Springs Black History Month Committee's caravan which started in Section 14, was very good. Jarvis, Crawford, the Crawford family as a legacy family of Section 14. There are anecdotes, there are oral histories to be recognized. And his notes on Section 14 during that caravan, and not just notes but history, was major. It was the first time they've done this caravan, and he did mention one anecdote of Our Savior's Community Church, which provided an apology also during that time. So we may want to also look back at what kind of anecdotes or histories that may have been not, again, officially recorded by the city or the tribe or the government, because there's obviously a level of like, whoa, there's folks are hiding things, and this is really the sad part of it. So I want to definitely see how this draft. I like what I've heard so far, and I appreciate you, Council Member Coors, and like this is historic because it's so overdue, as Commissioner Shepard has said, and everyone here has been talking about it for a long time. And this is what is needed. Of course, this is also entangled in a lot of stuff that we need to talk about: the intersectionality of our communities, how city municipal government speaks to the Agua Caliente tribe. What are the relations there? We need to also realize the importance of looking at the business developments of the neighborhoods where people went. It wasn't just Desert Highland, it was also the Crossley Tract. There's a lot of history that is, we're writing that history again. Or not again, but we're writing that history now. So I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that forward to us.
Share one thing on that, and I think as we move this forward, and I think something would be great to work on. I really welcome the opportunity to work with the Human Rights Commission, apart from what will come from the Social Equity Committee about actions, is pulling together some of those histories and doing some recordings of people. So we keep an archive, in the city, in our historical society. So Commissioner Rameron, I really think that's a great suggestion that we jump on that as part of this in moving forward. So we do record that from people who, for people who were alive at the time, who were moved, and a lot of their family members. So I think that's something we should do sooner than later. I'd be happy to work together with you or other commissioners on that effort.
Yeah, that's great. Great idea.
I would also add, we have one of the only Black mayors in the Coachella Valley with Colleen Wallace in Banning. So there's clearly there are a lot of clear links to Indio. Council member Wayman Furman, who will be the first Black mayor of Indio, has a lot of stories that connect the displacement of Black and Brown residents in Indio to the history in Palm Springs. So it's a huge story. This is exciting because it's going to reveal a lot of information that people just don't know, and it's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, wonderful. Thank you for all the comments that were made, and remember, this is certainly just a first step forward, and it is a step, and the city has acknowledged that with the Social Equity and Justice Committee, that there's a lot of work ahead. So this is just one of those first steps, and we're ready to, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote to endorse the motion as stated to the resolution to move this proposal forward to City Council. All in favor?
Aye.
Donna and Commissioner Andrade. Oh, it's and I am a yes. So Jay, we've got a unanimous vote in favor and support of moving this recommended resolution forward to City Council. So thank you all, commissioners, for your comments and the contributions that we certainly are going to be making in this effort as we go forward. And Jeff, thank you for being with us and taking the effort underway to get the ball rolling on this apology.
Great, thank you. And I would stay, but I have an animal shelter thing at 6. But I know you're doing another resolution, and when appropriate, and I think it would be for the next one, is please ask for those to be forwarded to City Council on the consent calendar. Because I think that a lot of people will read that who may not know that when the commission is passing things, and I think it'd be great to get those regularly in our consent calendar for the chair and for Jay.
Perfect. Okay, thank
If there's
Thank
one you ever want us to pull, just let me know. You know, we can pull it for further and highlight it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Coors. Okay, next up we have item C, the International Women's Day resolution. This one is a little more straightforward and celebratory in nature, recognizing the contributions that women have made, not just in Palm Springs, but the role that women play around the world. And today is, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, International Women's Day, but we're asking the council to support a resolution and declaring the month International Women's Month in the city of Palm Springs. So you got all the whereases and the whereases on this one. So our motion is, the motion forward from committee is that the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission and the City of Palm Springs calls for a woman's right to decision-making in all areas of life, equal pay, equal sharing of unpaid care and domestic work, and an end to all forms of violence against women and girls, and healthcare services that respond to their needs. Be it further resolved, the City of Palm Springs affirms the commitment to end discrimination and violence against women and girls, to ensure the safety, health, and welfare of women and girls, to pursue policies that guarantee the fundamental human rights of women and girls, and to promote meaningful and significant participation in women in every aspect of society and community, including conflict prevention, protection, and peacemaking. Be it further resolved that the empowerment of women and girls is inextricably linked to the community's potential to generate economic growth, self-reliance, sustainable peace, and democracy. And be it further resolved that March 2021 is proclaimed International Women's Month in Palm Springs, California. Do I have a motion on the floor to adopt this resolution and move it forward to City Council?
So moved.
Commissioner Andrade, second.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Flood and Commissioner Shepard wanted to third that one. All right, all in favor of passing the motion as presented?
Aye.
Signify aye, raise your hand. Jay, it's a unanimous vote. So unanimous adoption of the resolution for International Women's Month in Palm Springs. Thank you all on that. Whew. Next up, we've got item D. And, the Lawrence Crosley issue is another issue that has just, been kind of crazy for a lot of people in the community as to how we got to where we are with Lawrence Crosley Road. But the good news is that the new signs with the full name, Lawrence Crosley Road, are going up, or they have just completed here in Palm Springs. And years ago, the road was named Crosley Road, only using Mr. Crosley's last name. Well, Crosley was a resident who made a significant impact on the evolution of the city, an impact certainly deserving of his full name being used. However, only his last name was used for the road, even though many other desert city streets of distinction used first and last names Dinah Shore, Gene Autry, Bob Hope, Frank Sinatra, Fred Waring, Gerald Ford, Kay Ballard, to name a few. Mr. Crosley was a respected and influential Black leader, entrepreneur, and resident of Palm Springs in the very early years. He is considered the first Black property owner in the Valley and provided home loan opportunities for Black residents displaced from Section 14. There are many last name only streets in the Valley, like Farrell Drive, Eisenhower, JFK Trail, Astaire, Lancaster Way, Gaynor Street, Douglas Street, Russell Drive, Garbo Avenue. There's also a Barrymore Drive, Wayne Street, Crosby Drive, Bergman Drive, and many more. None of the people behind these one-name streets had the impact on the city of Palm Springs that Lawrence Crosley did. None of these people are recognized with distinction as one of the earliest African-American residents in Palm Springs. It truly is nice to see, and it's about time the Lawrence Crosley Road signs sit high above our streets, connecting Ramon Road with East Palm Canyon Drive. We've gotten to a point of recognition, respect, and dignity. So we wanted to share that on Lawrence Crosley Road and thank City Council for getting us to this point. That's just one more step that was taken, one more step to move forward. So we appreciate the city doing that. And last is the April 7th World Health Day. We don't meet before the World Health Day occurs on April 7th, so we will just acknowledge that World Health Day of 2021 is April 7th, and it's a year that marks the celebration of the first day of recognition in 1948 or 1950. The celebration has aimed to create awareness of specific health themes to highlight priority areas of concern for the World Health Organization. The World Health Day's message this year is simple: giving people access to healthcare without the prospect of financial hardship. This is regardless of where they're from. They can be from Palm Springs, California, Africa, Asia, South America. It doesn't matter. What matters to the World Health Organization and the United Nations is that there is health for all. So that is World Health Day, and the Human Rights Commission highlights the work of those working in the healthcare field in Palm Springs, and we ask you to celebrate this workforce as one of the most valuable resources to our city and to the world. Oh, Jesus, I've got item 8A under Community Relations Committee Budget and Personnel. The Palm Springs Public Police Department LGBTQ Outreach Committee. We spent much time this month talking about the town hall that's coming up on March 30th. It's Zoom, so we expect to have a very large attendance. And it is the LGBT Outreach Committee that organizes this town hall with the police department. And it's been done a handful of years in the past, and we've always had a really positive in-person attendance. So we're, with the Zoom, we expect we'll have a much larger attendance. So the hate crime report is also something that we continue to monitor as the Human Rights Commission with the police department. And I mentioned earlier that there was 10 hate crimes for 2020 and 8 documented hate incidences. The hate crimes, if we break that down, there was 6 were based on race, 3 were assaults. I'm sorry. There were 6 total incidents based on race. Of that 6 total, 3 were assaults, 1 was based on intimidation, and 2 were vandalism. 1 incident was based on religion and documented as vandalism. And 3 incidences were based on sexual orientation, and 2 assaults and 1 robbery. There were 8 documented incidences of hate crimes. 4 were based on sexual orientation, 3 were based on race, and 1 was based on religion. The most recent hate crime occurred on February of 2021 at approximately 1:12 in the afternoon on the 400 block of South Colley and Cilia regarding a verbal altercation. During the investigation, it was determined that an identified suspect challenged the victim to a fight based on his perceived sexual orientation. The suspect in this incident was identified and contacted at the Desert Regional Medical Center while receiving care for the injury sustained in an unrelated assault. The victim refused to file charges against the suspect. So that's the update, the annual report from the police department for the year for hate crimes. And that will be in our annual report documentation where it will be documented for the future also. Master calendar, Commissioner Ramaran, you're on.
Thank you, Chair DeHart. Hi, everyone. Quickly, the one thing I do have is in alignment of human rights observances throughout the year. I'll be working on the master calendar to reflect these national and international observances, such as those historically proclaimed by the United Nations and other human rights organizations. I'm glad we mentioned Zero Discrimination Day of March 1. We also we can look at a host of them, but I'm going to mention a few. Today, of course, is International Women's Day. We have also March 21st, which is International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And then also March 22nd is World Water Day. Those are just a couple examples of March observances. And then I want to also highlight one for next month, which is in April. And I'm glad, again, that we're looking at the next observation of World Health Day in April. But in addition to that, there's also a National ASL Day. It's a day of observance celebrating American Sign Language, which is April 15th. On April 15th, 1817, the first lasting school for the deaf in the United States opened. Students gathered there over the years and at subsequent deaf schools across our nation. The children intermingled Native American signs, French Sign Language, and Martha's Vineyard Sign Language. This process brought forth modern American Sign Language. So that's one day I'd like to see that we observe also in our master calendar. I'll be also in contact with Denise Goolsbee with the city to make sure that our community calendar is also respected in respect to our master calendar. Thank you.
Excellent. And Commissioner Ramaran, do you have the list of dates that the commission voted and approved of? If not, then the days of distinction?
Yeah, I have the. If there are updates to it, that would be very helpful. So I could put this.
No, I don't think there's not any updates. It's Commissioner Andrade, was that 2 years ago that we worked on that? You're on mute, but
I believe it was 2 years ago. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So as long as you've got that, Commissioner Ramaran, those are the specific days that the commission has already voted and spent an incredible amount of time determining what days should be acknowledged. So if I don't believe there's been any updates, but I'll check my list and see. And then if there was, then we'll get that over to you through Jay. Okay.
And those are just I might add, the United Nations observances. So the other groups that you were talking about, Edwin, may need to be added to that. And I don't know if that requires an action on our part, but I think some things are just obvious that we should be acknowledging.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Main Street, the big discussion really focused on the hero pay conversation that was brought forward by our mayor. The whole meeting really was spent on discussing the issues surrounding hero pay. And that's continuing to move forward. And council is continuing to address that topic. There's no finance items to report, no organized neighborhoods to report. Community service awards, just want to send a word of thanks to all the commissioners for participating and helping to make it a very nice ceremony for our honorees this year. And we weren't quite sure how it would come across on Zoom, but I think we successfully were able to recognize and honor the individuals with some true distinction, and they were very appreciative. So thank you all for your role in helping to make that happen. And we'll do it again in just a few short 11 months from now. Next is, do we have an update from Desert Highlands Gateway Estates Community Association?
I have nothing on that myself.
Okay, Commissioner Flood, how about veterans issues?
I'm not sure if we had mentioned that President Biden has reversed the transgender ban on military personnel serving in the military. They can do that. They can serve now. So, as you know, that was a ban during the last administration. So it was good to hear that. And I don't have any paperwork on that, but I think the word is out throughout the military that it's okay to be transgender in uniform.
And I see that the First Lady is going to be visiting 29 Palms.
Yes, I heard that on the news too.
Yeah, excellent. Nice to have her in town. Okay, Ella, you're up. Youth Education and Affairs Committee. You have anything you want to bring to our attention on youth in the community?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
So for International Women's Day today, I actually saw that Facebook, their company page, posted a video that had a bunch of women who were working for women's rights and that had organized like online things, especially through Facebook. And they actually recognized Areli, who was in the Student Advocates for Justice, I believe it was called, that we honored during the awards last month. So I just thought that was really cool to see people from the Valley, especially, and students getting recognized for their work towards that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, anything else to report? Thank you for sharing that. Anything on any, yes?
Could I ask Ella a question about her previous report of the incident with the policeman, or is this not the time?
No, we can, it came out of the youth committee. So Ella, do you have any update on the what do they call it, investigation?
Last I heard, my dad had told me the police department told him they were conducting an investigation. And I think my dad said that he didn't want to, he wasn't too worried about like causing a big, I'm not sure how to explain it, like a big problem, like a formal complaint necessarily. He just wanted to like bring it to their attention. So I haven't heard anything since that. I'm not sure where it's at now.
Yeah, and that's the last that I've heard also. And the police department has assured us that when they have any findings, they will make sure that the commission hears of it. And even before we hear what outcome the department has, I think it's worth recognizing. Even before the police department was the one who reached out on this, so a formal complaint wasn't filed. There was just a telephone call to the police department after our initial meeting. I just wanted to make sure that the sergeants were aware that something did occur. And they took it upon themselves to move everything forward. And I think they reached out to Ella's dad, to have a conversation. So it's the police are being responsive, and that's nice to see.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything new on mediation, Commissioner Andrade?
Yes, something.
Hey!
On March the 2nd, just last week, myself and Commissioners Flood and Ramaran began a 24-hour mediation training program via the County of Riverside's Community Action Partnership. At the completion of instruction, there'll be an exam and an opportunity to be assigned a courtroom mediation experience. And that's the path to becoming a certified mediator. So it's quite possible that we will have 3 mediators on our commission alone. But definitely, whether we're on the commission or not, I think the commitment that we made is that we would be available to the county to provide that service regardless. Because again, the training is at no cost to us. So it's interesting. I will let Commissioners Ramaran and Flood chime in if they'd like to, but we are meeting twice a week for a month. It's intense. It's intense. So if you gentlemen have something you'd like to say, please do.
I agree with you, Commissioner Andrade. I found it quite interesting and intense, and I think it's worthwhile. So I plan to stick with it and keep my fingers crossed I passed a big test. Thank you for summing it up.
The good news is it's an open book test. so that I think has set our minds at ease. How about you, Edwin? Do you have any comments on the training or the experience so far?
Thank you, Commissioner Andrade, Commissioner Flood. Yeah, it's great to see you both like during the week also. It's 3 hours each day, but each night, by the way, everyone, just letting you know. But it's wonderful actually. Dr. Yant and Professor Edmondson are amazing. Olga Sanchez, who's been our contact, is great. And tomorrow we're doing our first opening statements. So we're performing tomorrow in front of the class. So cross your fingers for us. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have a feeling I'm going to be first because it's alphabetical. So the minute I get off of here, I'm back on the task of preparing my statement. But again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking advantage of it too. It's unexpected. I thought we were going to kind of kick that issue to the curb for a little while, but it's happening and it's good. I think we're all pleased. So thank you.
That's great. That's great news. And thank you, and all 3 of you, for making that commitment, because that is a pretty big commitment to make. But just look at the skill you will have at the end of class. So that's great. I'm really excited to see that. And Jay, where are you at? Thank you for continuing to stay on that and keep an eye out for that for us. So we appreciate it. For the retreat, there's no specific retreat conversation, but we did have a discussion about the possibility of doing another Zoom onboarding call. It seems like the last onboarding that we did, it might be good to just have a refresher course for anybody who would like to just get on a call for 45 minutes to an hour and just get the background of board service or commission service and the ins and outs and process. So we'll try to get that together here in the next month and a half or so. Okay, we're back to Commissioner Ramaran on committee assignments, specifically where we sit with the Clean Indoor Air and Health Protection Draft Ordinance.
I'm here to report that we're still on the draft draft level, and I will get the draft that went to the Sustainability Committee, and this is word from our colleague Commissioner Baker, that it didn't pass the last meeting, so we're still at a draft stage. So I will get what where we're at in terms of that, and also the any suggestions they had in the last meeting to see where when we will be again looking at another draft for them to look at. If that, I hope that helps. It's still in draft stage, but we're getting somewhere. It was a very tight vote on it, just FYI. So like, it's a difficult one, and this is, and I don't know if you all are following it, but ordinances like this are they're hard, and our town, our town has a history of of very much like being, it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. I do have the second item too, which is B. Should I go ahead and talk about that too, Chair?
Yep, we'll go right on into it.
That's street naming update is again, there is no update, and what I want to do is actually ask for help, and I think I need to get someone else to help me with this. I'm a committee of one on that, or at least commissioner on what we know one commissioner on it, and I know that both, for instance, Commissioner Shepard and I will be working on the racial equity committee, which hasn't really officially met yet. I know it's referenced in the draft for the Section 14 apology, but it hasn't met yet. So like, I think street naming, especially in honor of like, being human rights commissioners and sort of in line with human rights, we need to sort of look at how that also is part of that larger conversation. I'd love to hear if anyone would like to help me with that, because that way we could get this ball rolling and keep it going.
Mhm.
Commissioner Shepard, you're muted.
Commissioner Shepard is offering to help.
It helped.
Thank
I have a
you.
question, if I could. Maybe this is a good time. I was looking at expired terms coming up on the commission. My own included is June. And so I think Commissioner Flood, yours might be too. I was just looking at the website. I didn't even realize it. But do you have any sense Chair DeHart, what our futures are in terms of the end of our terms? Or, I mean, I know we've got 3 vacancies before we term out. So it's kind of hard to know, do we make a commitment to help if we aren't going to be here? So just curious what the scenario might be.
So I'm not sure if Commissioner Shepard has been formally asked to continue her term, even though it expired.
I'm
You're
just showing up.
You're on expired time. But City Council did request that all commissioners serving extend their term as the council is going through with the large number of appointments. Jay, do you have any other additional information on that might be helpful for Commissioner Andrade?
All we know is there is a backlog in the review of applications. There are some interested parties, but the confirmation we did get from the city clerk was that reappointments are not automatic. So we would have to go through that process again. But as the chair has indicated, the council has requested continuation of service for those who can.
Go ahead, Commissioner Allen.
In addition, actually the committee that I was referring to, the racial equity committee that the city Mayor Holstage and Councilmember Garner will be chairing. There are so many applicants for that, I understand. So like I even mentioned to Councilmember Garner, I'm like, hey, can we recruit from there? Because there's a lot of folks who are interested in racial, diversity, equity, and inclusion in that group. Like, we need that help in retention and recruitment. It's major.
Point.
So Commissioner Andrade, to refresh your memory, I think it was 2 years ago, the council went through the same process and we were asked to extend our terms. And I think it was 6 to 8 months, before, in my case, and that we went through the interview process post expiration. So, I think we're good for now. And it doesn't look like it's going to occur anytime real soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're down to commissioner, staff, and student comments. Let's combine this with any newsworthy items, if anybody's got newsworthy items. speak up or forever hold your P's and Q's.
Well, guess what? It's my turn again. I have I have something that I'd like to bring forward. It's newsworthy and of interest. When I first came on the commission, I had a bit of a job with the Homeless Commission, where I was reporting on homeless and that kind of thing. We haven't met. I know there's really not an awful lot to officially report, but I just wanted to say that I wish Jeff was still here, that he could have stayed with us, but I think the market increase in homeless camps and the presence of homeless is pretty obvious to everyone that lives here in Palm Springs. I think a large contributor to those increased numbers is the early release program in our social justice system. We've seen it in the news. Our social media is blowing up with skepticism, a lot of questions about the $10 million that was received by the city that was so applauded and made public, and then all of a sudden nothing, we're not hearing anything. I would wonder if we could ask Commissioner or Councilman Coors or the mayor or somebody to speak to us about what the current situation is, maybe to update us on what's happening with that money. What is the plan? What is, how do we just create a dialogue and become just a little bit more transparent in how we are handling the circumstance that seems to be upsetting a lot of people. And there's a lot of questions.
Yep, no, that's good observation and good comment and excellent request.
Could I add something to that, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
It's sort of in line with that. The news reports have, I think, the last week or so have come out talking about I'm using this term, dumping of homeless people in Palm Springs, and also wish maybe Jeff could have addressed that. I know that they would want to meet with the county leaders, executive council, county leaders about that. And in conjunction with that, they were saying that they were the homeless people that they brought here to Palm Springs. They put them in a hotel or someplace and they let them go after a few days. They've had their COVID vaccines. And so I think the issue of bringing more homeless people without the benefit of the council or the public safety officials, fire, police, et cetera, knowing it, I think that was kind of, in my opinion, a disgrace. So I think the council and the mayor are looking into that, and just wanted to bring that out because that was a news item that caught my attention. I think a lot of others too, maybe.
I think what we're seeing and hearing in the news is really blowing out of proportion. This whole the idea of the dumping of prisoners that have been released, into the valley. Apparently, this has been a process that's been happening for quite some time, and the big concern that has been raised most recently, and the numbers are very small. So it really has been, the perception has been blown out of proportion because there is just visibly, the problem is, there's a greater concern now because we're seeing more folks that are homeless and we're attributing that to the dumping of these prisoners. And the numbers are extremely small. And it's been happening for quite some time where there's medical release. So they come directly from a hospital situation to, recuperate in a hotel here in town, but also through Riverside. There's a number of places that they take folks in these situations. So, and Commissioner Flood, you're exactly right. Last Tuesday, I think. Councilmember Coors and the mayor said that they were going to be having a meeting with the county folks to get more information, because it definitely took it by surprise, this idea of prisoners coming out of medical facilities and being brought to town. And the chief had specifically addressed knowledge of one or two individuals that they became aware of, and that's how this was learned in Palm Springs, is that the police department actually learned from one of these individuals that's how they got to Palm Springs. So it's definitely a big issue. And Commissioner Andrade, I have moved that down to item 9, so we'll put it on the agenda for an item for the next meeting. And maybe Jay, you can help us determine what the best way would be to invite somebody to give us an update. I don't know if that invite is on Zoom, or if they're going to provide something written to us. So if you could help us determine who that best person would be, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just let me add, Commissioner and Chair and Commissioners, this Thursday, the City Council will be discussing some of these issues. So if you tune into the City Council meeting, you'll get a bit more information on the status of what's happening. And as the chair has mentioned, that is my understanding of the hotels being used for recovery purposes. And actually, the individuals there are not necessarily out of the justice system. They are just without homes, but needing a place to recover. So, hopefully we can get all the facts straight from the different parties, because right now I believe there's some disagreement in terms of who's in the city and why and how those folks have gotten there. But there's clearly a willingness to work together, and the county having at least our police chief or his staff available if they do think there will be a need to house individuals in Palm Springs. So that is moving forward in that way.
Yeah, I feel like we're very privileged to be in a situation where we're hearing things that the average citizen is not hearing. I mean, again, if you just correlate the numbers, the increase in numbers along with that news story, you can see the picture that it paints. And if all we're going to do is to put people's minds at ease and say that is not necessarily the way it is, then I think we need to have the information to do that, and so that we know what the facts are ourselves. So, I mean, I know that the county and every county has a exit program like this. Every county uses hotels and things like that. And but the thing is that when they're done with that program, they stay and they add to the population. And again, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I mean, it's the people need to just understand. I guess that's what my whole point is just talk to us about it.
Yeah.
So we get asked, we know.
Yeah, and I think with Jay's suggestion, I don't know how many people watch the council meetings on a regular basis, but if you want a very exciting Thursday evening, tune into channel 17 or YouTube for council meeting. And there is a lot of issues with answers that are questions that aren't being answered quickly. And one of those is, some of these individuals that were recently housed in the hotel were coming from other parts of the county, or they committed their crimes in other parts of the county. So, there's some big questions is, why are they not going back to the city where they committed their crime, and they're coming to a city that is strange to them, and it's, not something, the crime wasn't committed in Palm Springs, but they're bringing individual to Palm Springs when they really should have taken this particular individual to another city in Riverside or someplace, Riverside County on the.
Maybe. And then when you add the COVID issue to it and the quarantine for a disease, I think you just exacerbate the fear and it rolls out of control eventually if it's not managed.
Yep, no, so that's good. We'll see what kind of update we can get for April. Okay, any other comments, topical newsworthy items? And we've kind of combined that with item 9, agenda items. Commissioner Ramaran.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I totally agree with that as well. Lots of folks called me about the news, and I think that's one of the things about it was the response to that news that was very disheartening, right? It was to hear about the dehumanization of folks who, COVID positive. We're talking about people who don't have a home. It was absolutely, it was sad, and I think it's important that we do look at it that way too. It's not just about the infrastructure that folks didn't make any decision or let anyone people know, but it's actually about our people who are sick, who don't have a home. And we have a history of being a sanctuary city. I mean, I know that's on another level, but like we are known as being good Samaritans in Palm Springs. And I think that's one of the issues that didn't get sort of, to counter that kind of newsworthy item, because people are not things to be dumped, or they're not things. So I appreciate that, Commissioner Andrade, for bringing that up, and I appreciate the conversation here, and Commissioner Flood for bringing that up, because it's real. This is about the dehumanization of a class of people, and that was totally uncalled for. In addition to the Stop Asian Hate information that, and I thank you, Chair DeHart, for bringing that up at the very beginning. I think prioritizing is very big, and I want to thank you again for, we as a commission made a priority last year too, right? As the pandemic, you know took hold. We're almost a year now, right? I can't believe we're still meeting on Zoom. So we're the pandemic commission, in a lot of ways. We're really having to respond to a lot of things. But I appreciate that link to the Stop Asian Hate, and being able to report hate crimes against Asian American and Pacific Islanders was a priority, and it remains that. I am working also with our community here, Filipinos who are part of like Bayanihan Desert, and as well as our dear colleagues at the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, who they are working on a resolution probably too, to bring to the city also in regards to this. So I want to just give you a report on that. I'm very encouraged by, and I totally support the draft and work on Section 14 apology. This is again a historic day for us here. Um, I want to mention also, the International Women's Day. The theme this year also is about hashtag Choose to Challenge. So I've been following it on Instagram and all different like social media platforms. I want to read this one quick thing for us here. It says, "A challenged world is an alert world, and from challenge comes change. So let's all choose to challenge. How will you help forge a gender equal world? Celebrate women's achievement, raise awareness against bias, and take action for equality." So please follow the hashtag Choose to Challenge for International Women's Day. There's a lot there. One last thing I wanted to bring up, because I literally got a call from Tisa Rodriguez, who's the chair of the California Democratic Party in Riverside County, brought forth to me, and I will forward this to all of you, or I'll forward it to Jay so we could get this also. There is a call for folks who, here I'm gonna just word for word from Chair Rodriguez, from the of Tisa Rodriguez. There are very loud voices in this county, Riverside County, who are against agenda item 3.2, the resolution by Supervisor Perez in support of repealing the involuntary servitude carve out in the California Constitution. These voices are literally advocating for slavery. Submit your testimony and or call your supervisor's office. Let them know that Riverside County supports human rights. Tomorrow and today and tomorrow, tomorrow they'll be introducing the resolution. So we need to make sure that we contact our representatives on the boards, the supervisors, including Supervisors Jeffries, Spiegel, Washington, Perez, and Hewitt. The California Constitution currently allows involuntary servitude for the incarcerated. This unconscionable and intentional exception to the abolition of slavery. So we're looking at abolishing slavery still. So I want to bring that up to you all here, and I will again share the information. But this is a very urgent item. I want to just let you know, because I literally just got it today, and I hope this is a venue that we can be responsive to and responsible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments, announcements, or items that we need for the agenda next month? I just have one, and it's the new executive committee rep for April, May, and June. And it really is going to turn and fall on Commissioner Andrade or Commissioner Shepherd this quarter. So between the two of you, I don't know, Commissioner Andrade, if you want to add one more thing onto your plate with your training going on, or if you want to take the summer quarter. Do you have a preference? You would be the next one up. Just for a quarter.
Commissioner Shepherd, are you available for this next go round, or would you prefer the summer? You need to unmute.
I'm available and be happy to do it for the spring.
Okay.
I'll take the
Excellent.
summer.
All right, well, we'll make a formal announcement at the next meeting. Okay, if there's no other agenda items, Jay, do you have any comments or anything?
No comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we will adjourn the commission will adjourn to an adjourned regular meeting Monday, April 12, 2021 at 5 p.m., right?
5:30.
30.
5:30 via Zoom.
Thank you.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you all. Appreciate the support tonight.